Welcome back to Brandon Farm. Let's talk watering, shall we? I'll take you guys down to the garden and we're gonna do a little watering video. All right, we have our water here. Oh, it's already on. We need to switch this. Just have this little hose splitter. It sends it down to the shop versus up here at the house. Let's go ahead and walk down here. I would say that your best bet is to water either late at night, like right when the sun goes down or right after the sun goes down, or in the morning before the sun comes up. What you don't want is a bunch of water sitting on your leaves. That's why you want to water either early in the morning so it has time to evaporate off the leaves, or late at night to where it has time to really soak in. And then when the sun comes out, it evaporates it. So you're not having water sitting on the leaves, burning it up. I've been really into this book lately. I just picked it up off of Amazon. And in here it lists plants that really like a lot of water versus plants that don't really like a lot of water. So some that you need to be aware of that kind of shocked me is like a watermelon does not need a lot of water, but you would think it would because it's full of water. But it doesn't. It doesn't require a whole lot of water, so you don't want to overwater your watermelon. Your peppers like a lot of water. Your potatoes like a lot of water. I encourage you to just research your plants and just see what their watering needs are. You might be surprised on what you find. For us, since we both have full-time jobs and we have to be there in the morning, bright and early, our watering looks like watering with a hose every night after the sun goes down, or before right as the sun goes down. We have children, so getting up and doing that in the morning it's just not feasible. So that's why we like to water at night. And I just use this guy. I kind of like it. I didn't know what to think of it at first. It's just a lever that pulls back, and that's your pressure on your hose. But I would say your best watering is probably going to be like a drip irrigation system. We don't have that. I didn't set that up in the beginning. My garden's small enough to where I feel like I can water sufficiently with a garden hose. But if you want to, great. If not, hose is where it's at. Not watering is not an option. Not in Texas. So when I water my garden, I like to start at one end and then kind of just work my way around. That way I know I've hit everything, because sometimes I will miss like the potted plants and things like that. So I have a lot of seedlings starting. Make sure you research your seedlings, because I think I've overwatered my sunflowers, but my pumpkins are loving the water. So I'd like to double water those, because when you water it, it kind of sits on the surface. So I like to let that drain all the way down, because if your soil is super dry, your water is just going to flow right through it. Nothing's going to stick to it. So I like to water it, let it drain, and then hit it again, depending on which plant it is, because like I said, some plants don't like a lot of water. So I'm going to just give my pumpkins a drink here. And I water everything overhead except for my tomatoes. So I'm gonna let that sit, and I'm gonna move on to my peppers. The peppers like a lot of water, so I'm gonna water them like a lot. With this Texas heat and the wind, everything just dries right out. So you wanna make sure you're hitting all of your plants sufficiently. These, let's see if you can see these right here. These right here are my sunflowers. Now they don't like a lot of water, but then I didn't water them earlier, and now they're kind of shriveled up. So I'm just gonna give them a little drink. That should be good. I'm gonna move on to my other pepper. A plant that likes a ton of water is gonna be the cucumber. So I will just go in here and water the crap out of this plant. And then when I get to the back side, I might even hit it again. So typically my rule of thumb is to count to 10 slowly on your plants that like a lot of water, just so you know that when you water, it's not just going to sit there and evaporate, it's going to deep soak it. Like I said earlier, with this Texas heat and the wind, plants are just going to dry up and shrivel up and die. So watering is very important. I know you're thinking that watering, doesn't everybody know how to water? Who doesn't know how to water their garden and their plants? But you know, sometimes you just need a few pointers on how to water. It seems simple, but very important step to have in a garden. So you can tell how windy it is out here. That's why when I water, I like to deep water. Oh, my lights are coming on. I like to deep water at least twice a week, and then the rest I just kind of take it easy with my watering because I don't want to overwater. I think that's kind of what's happening to my tomato plants. They're turning yellow on the inside, and I think that might have to do with overwatering. And then I didn't water my peppers last night like super well, and they shot up. So I think maybe I'm overwatering there too. So there's a fine line between overwatering and underwatering. You just want to find that middle ground, which plants like and what they thrive on. And I think a lot of it has to do also on your soil. Is your soil holding enough moisture for your plants to thrive on? Because your soil is where your plants get all the nutrients from, and it's basically their lifeline. So you just have to figure out your soil, how much water is absorbing, are the plants getting too much? Take note of what your plants are doing after you water the next day. That way you just kind of can find that balancing act. It's not always great to overhead water. A lot of the times you want to have like a drip irrigation system. We don't have that. Fortunately, some of my plants are not as bushy, so I can just water the soil and not the plants. When you water, you don't want to water the leaves. You want to water the soil because that's where you want your moisture to be held. I don't know if I'll ever finish these videos. Every time I get on here to video a watering video, since we water late at night, I run out of daylight and then it gets too dark for me to finish the video. So we're going on like day 3 of trying to even make this watering video. I would say the biggest thing, if you can, is to water the soil, not the plant, number 1. Number 2, don't overwater, don't underwater. Find your middle ground of what your plants thrive on. And then number 3 really would be to install the drip irrigation system. That way you can kind of better control where your water is going versus trying to overhead water. You know, a lot of the times plants in their natural state, right, in nature, they'll grow up. That way they can basically have a catch for the water. So when the water hits the leaves, it runs down and it goes down the stem of the plant directly to the middle of the plant where the soil is. Not all plants are like that, but most plants are designed like that. But if you have a drip irrigation system, then you know everything's already on the soil and it's just moistening your soil. You're not overwatering or underwatering. It's more controlled. Maybe one day I'll do that, but not today. I appreciate coming out here and being able to water my garden. I find joy in that. It's very calming for me. It's kind of like my own little personal therapy. In nature, when it rains, rain comes from the top, you know, and it falls down and hits the leaves and then goes into the soil. So we're kind of mimicking, in my opinion, rain because it's coming from the top anyway, instead of like a drip irrigation system would be more on the ground. I don't know. So it's whatever works for you, do what works for you, whatever works for your garden and your plants. For us, that's hand watering with the hose every single night. And we both, you know, enjoy it. It's kind of like a little escape. Don't be afraid to try and grow something, to put something in the ground, to sow a seed, to water it, to feed it, to nurture it, to be out there with it, tending to your garden. Don't be afraid to do it. Just do it. There's no harm, no foul. It's just a learning experience for, you know, everybody and everything. So I really feel like there's value in that. And there's, you know, what have you got to lose? If you think that you're overwatering, cut back. see how it affects your plants. If you think you're underwatering, add more, see how it affects your plants. It may be a watering issue, or it might be something else. You could have a pest problem. Maybe it's not getting enough sun, or maybe it's getting too much sun. I mean, there's just a million things that it could be. So it's a process of elimination, and the easiest thing to start with is your watering. Yeah, thank you for hanging out with me.